This is a first quorum call of the City Council. It is 12 minutes after 10. We have 4 members present. We need 10 for a quorum. Council members that are in the building, could you please make your way to the council chamber in order that we may begin the meeting, end the meeting quickly, as today is Election Day in the City of Angels. First quorum call. Council members, would you please report to the council chambers? quorum call. Council members who are in the building, if you would please proceed to the council chamber in order that we may proceed. We have 6 members present. This is a second quorum call. This is a third quorum call. We have 7 members present: Mr. Holden, Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Ridley Thomas, Mr. Wax. If you're in the building, could you please proceed to the council chambers in order that we may begin the meeting?
Is it appropriate to move adjournment? Oh.
It is now 10:34. This is a last and final quorum call. We need one member for a quorum. Mr. Holden, Mr. Ridley Thomas, if you are in the building, if you could come to the council chamber so we may proceed. Sergeants, if you could assist. Last quorum call. Council members and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, we do have one council member which is en route and should be about 2 or 3 minutes away. The other council member is about 7 minutes away. We are awaiting some young people to do a presentation also, and they are yet to arrive. We should have a quorum momentarily, so if you would please be patient, we appreciate your patience, and then we will proceed. And so let's wait a little while longer until we can have our young people here, as well as the 2 council members who are en route. So hang in there. Okay, here we go. We do have a quorum. This is a meeting of the City Council of the City of Los Angeles this Tuesday, June 5th, 2001, Election Day in the City of Angels. And those of you watching cable TV channel 35, you still have a half hour to vote if you are watching this at 7:30 this evening on the rerun. And if you are watching this live, you have most of the day to go vote. So we encourage you to go do that. I'm Council President Pro Tem Rudy Savornich Jr., serving as presiding officer today due to the excused absence of Council President Ruth Galanter. There are 15 council districts in the city, and as I have stated, we are currently being viewed on LA City View Channel 35. This meeting will be repeated at 7:30 this evening, and all council meetings for the week will be repeated on Sunday beginning at 10 a.m. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bernson, Chick, Fuhrer, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Ridley, Thomas, Savornich, Wax, Walters, and Galanters. 10 members present and quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Members of the council and ladies and gentlemen of the audience, this is the first meeting of the month. Historically, the City Council on the first meeting of the month will have an invocation followed by the flag salute. This morning, we have Dr. Philip Hilliard of the Bethany Church of Alhambra who will be leading us in the invocation. I would like to ask you to please stand and remain standing for the invocation and the flag salute. Reverend.
Almighty God, you are the source of all good things. You are the giver of life. You are the author of peace. You fill us with hope for a better tomorrow. Thank you for these men and women who have dedicated their lives to the public good and who serve on the Los Angeles City Council. Grant them wisdom to face today's challenges. Grant them compassion for the weak and powerless. Grant them foresight as they might set the best course for this great city as we move into the uncharted waters of tomorrow. May you bless and protect them. Bless and protect their families at all times. Bless and watch over the staff and employees of the City Council members and their families as well. We ask for your blessing and care upon Mayor Reardon and for the man who will today be elected to succeed him. May your grace rest upon our city that we might live in peace and safety, that justice and truth might prevail, and that prosperity might come to all of our citizens. For your favor and these blessings we give thanks. In the name of Christ our Lord, amen.
I've been informed by the clerk that we had a pledge on Friday, but this being Election Day, I think it would be appropriate today also. Controller-elect and Councilwoman Laura Chick, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Hands over your heart, please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Clerk, next order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Without objection, so ordered.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Without objection, so ordered.
Before starting the regular agenda, there's a few items to be received and filed and continued. Item number 1, request that matter be continued one day until June 6th.
Is there any objection, colleagues, to continuing item number 1 for one day until tomorrow? It's the consideration of the mayor's veto message.
The message has not been received by the clerk's office yet, so it needs to be continued one day.
Any objection, colleagues? Okay, without objection, item number 1 will be continued 1 day.
Item number 8, a request from Council District 10 to continue that matter till June 26th.
Is there any objection to continuing item number 8? Any objection to continuing item number 8 until June 26th? See no objection, that'll be the order. Next item.
Item number 11, a request that matter be continued till August 7th.
Any objection to continuing item number
11.
11 until August 7th? Seeing no objection, that'll be the order. Next item.
A request that item number 10 be continued 1 day until June 6th.
Any objection to item number 10 being continued 1 day until tomorrow? Seeing no objection, that'll be the order.
Item number 13, a request from Los Angeles Housing Department and Council District 1 to receive and file that matter. Item number 13.
Any objection to receiving and filing item number 13? Mr. Hernandez?
Mr. President, that request is coming from Council District 10, which should be the council district where the item is.
Okay. Any objection to the continuance? Or, excuse me, I believe. Any objection to the receive and file? Pardon me. Okay. Without objection? So ordered.
Excuse me. Item number 14, a request from Los Angeles Housing Department to continue that matter 2 weeks till June 19th.
Is there any objection to continuing item 14 2 weeks? Till June 19th. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Next item.
And item number 27, that matter needs to be received and filed inasmuch as council does not have jurisdiction. Item number 27.
Okay, colleagues. Mr. Fuhrer, item 27.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is not my motion. It's a motion from our colleagues, Mr. Holt and Mr. Ridley Thomas. I'd like to ask the city attorney, do we have any options at all with regard to the naming of this library at this time?
You really don't. What
I was
you
very
have
sympathetic with the motion. I was hoping we could vote on that today.
right. When this motion came in last week, I inquired about the time, and they were checking it. They were verifying it, and I'm assuming that the clerk has verified that the 5 meeting days has passed.
That is correct. May 29th would have been the last day to act.
So the council really doesn't have any way to take jurisdiction over this.
As a matter of fact, has the library been named for an alternative person, or can a new commission do what this motion seeks?
Well, I think that my understanding is that the county has named a library that is within several miles, fairly close to this, and
I
I
see.
think the commission was concerned that there would be confusion. There is a plaque that is being put up.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
Chair recognizes Councilman Holden. Mr. Holden, would you push your button?
City attorney.
Yes, sir.
You the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles or Culver City?
You know, Mr.
That's
Holden,
right.
that I am the city
of LA.
attorney for this city.
So we don't speak on behalf of Culver City. Now, this is the county, and they do what they do, we do what we do. Fact of the matter is that we put the request in first, and because of pride of authorship, there was an attempt made to preempt the city of Los Angeles. We resent that. Fact of the matter is that, sure, the time may have slipped, but the new commission can do whatever it chooses to do, and so can the commission which exists today. They can reconsider. Is that correct?
The commission,
Can reconsider.
they may reconsider.
That is correct.
But this veto message
they can
is-
reconsider. They can reconsider. Now, you may say the time elapsed maybe a day or so. Okay, fine. But the mayor, are you still here? I'm going to respectfully request that you ask your commission, the one that named the library after you, to reconsider its position on the naming of the Julian C. Dixon Library and the Baldwin Hills Library, renaming that one. I'm respectfully requesting that, and I'm sure that they'll do it as requested. so we can receive and file the report before us, and I'm sure that the appropriate action will be taken by the sitting commission. Is that all right, Madam City Attorney?
I'm sorry, Mr. Holden?
Is that all right?
I didn't hear what you were saying.
That's all right. It's going to be, it's all right.
It's all right, Mr. Holden. Is there any objection to receiving and filing this item? Seeing no objection, so ordered. Forthwith on 6. Yeah. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, items noticed for public hearing are items 2 through 4 and 7.
Okay. Prior to we going into the public hearing on those items, I do believe that our young folks have arrived for the presentation. So at this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Chick with a special guest, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, for a presentation.
We were here to perform love letters, actually. Oh, okay.
This is going to shock you. Can we ask all of the students and teachers from El Camino to come up? Come on.
And while they do that, the mayor and I have a very special surprise for these wonderful young people. We're going to first present a certificate. I think you all know who they are. This is the El Camino Real High School in Woodland Hills Championship Academic Decathlon Team. Once again, folks. All seniors, all rookies. Is that right? This was the first time on this academic decathlon team for every single one of these members. The first. So, and the last, they said, and the last, and the last. I mean, they used to hang out on the rooftop lounge and study for what, 10 hours at a time sometime, at least. So before I turn the microphone over to Mayor Reardon and present the certificate and give the surprise, I did want to recognize people by name. First of all, the principal, Ron Bauer. And this is not his only achievement, one of many. Makes us proud. Coaches Melinda Owen and Christian Cerrone. And, actually I thought as I introduced the kids, we'd let them each come to the mic briefly and say what your plans are, like what next, since you're all graduating. Grace, is it Giles? Giles, Grace Giles.
What do you want to know? Caltech next year.
Okay.
You're kidding.
No.
No, these kids don't kid. Samantha Henry.
I'm going to study engineering at USC.
Fantastic. Scott Scott Lulovics.
I'm going to UC San Diego.
Alan Wittenberg.
I'm going to the University of I'm going to the University of Washington in Seattle to study biology.
God, nobody the same yet. Elan Barr. Elon Barr.
I'm going to UC Santa Barbara. Very cool. I don't know what I'm studying at the beach.
One lighthearted thought here. Walter Ching. Not here. Okay. He's where? U.S. Navy. Nuclear power. Aria Hagigi? Aria Hagigi.
I'm going to Stanford to do Asian Studies.
They were laughing. Dennis Quo.
I'm going to Stanford to do Persian studies.
Oh, they even have fun. This is good. Ryan Ruby.
I'm going to Columbia University just to study.
Okay.
You want to present the certificate?
Well, I'm going to ask a great trivia question and see if any of these kids know the answer. What is the northernmost, southernmost, and easternmost and westernmost states of the United States? Ryan, I'll bet you can't get that.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, before, hold on, let me think. Isn't California all of that? I mean, everywhere? Isn't California the universe? Oh, no, all right, northernmost would have to be Alaska. Westernmost, also Alaska. Southernmost would have to be Hawaii. And easternmost, because, as we've mentioned before, it crosses the international timeline, thank you, Elon, and Dateline, and goes to the eastern part of the world, so Alaska also. There you go. Thank you.
Very good. Bravo.
And who else wants to say? Brad Sherman introduced them to President Bush, and I was lucky to be there, but one of you want to mention what you thought of President Bush? Were you impressed?
Elon, where are you? Elon, do say.
Okay, well now, we should let the principal say something.
Would you like to say something?
As they quoted in the newspaper, the Republican principal of El Camino Real High School, among a sea of Democrats, I thought that our president was very gracious in saying hello to our young people and listening to them and spiriting some good answers out of them. Just as in 1998 they met President Clinton, it was one of those wonderful once-in-a-lifetime experiences. We're very proud to be honored at the City Council for the 6th year in a row. 4 trips to the Nationals, 2 championships, and 2 runner-ups. Again, a great set of coaches, second-year coaches, brought the bacon home to ECR again, and they're going to do it again next year, they say, and a wonderful group of students. Thanks again for the attention.
The certificate. And we've got a surprise. Because the last time, all right? Wait. In 1998, when they won, we presented a street sign to hang on Valley Circle Boulevard. Now listen, the goal is to completely, from one end of the other of Valley Circle, we're going to have these signs, 1 year after the next.
Wow. How neat.
That's the sign.
No, it's not going to wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Get it right in here. Everybody, cramp up here. Come on.
All right, let's get in for a picture.
Let's hold it.
There you go, son. You want to hold it? You're the one who works. You're the
Yeah, you're the one who wanted it thrown. Get a hand on it.
Great. All right, you got to now carry it out.
like special
All right, let's go. That way. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. President. They deserved it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Mayor. And again, congratulations to our students from El Camino Real High School. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 2 through 4 and 7 are items noticed for public hearing.
Okay, I do have a speaker's card on number 4, so we will call that special. What number did we go through, Mr. Clerk? 7?
2, 3, 4, and 7.
Okay, we have cards on number 7. We will call that special. Is there any council member that wants to be heard on the remaining items? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll and tabulate the vote?
11 ayes.
Those items are approved forthwith on 6.
We haven't got to 6 yet, but for numbers 2 and 3, the action is to continue the hearing and ordinance till June 26th.
Mr. Bernson's going to get forthwith on that 6 yet, Mr. Clerk. Okay, next item, Mr. Clerk.
We're getting there right now. 5, 6, and 9 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Is there any council member that wants to be heard on any of those items? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on those items and tabulate the vote?
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Hey, let's send item 6 forthwith now. Okay. Mr. Clerk, before we move on to the next item, I believe Mr. Wax has a presentation.
Yeah, Mr. President, before Mr. Wax's presentation, could you also instruct items 5 and 9 to be forthwith?
Forthwith on 5 and 9.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I didn't want 6 to get preferential treatment.
Mr. Wax?
What about you?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm glad the mayor is here to join us, and my colleague Councilman Padilla, who shares North Hollywood with me. I wonder if the students could come forward from North Hollywood High School. This is a particularly good day. I'm glad Ms. Chick brought the El Camino national champions here today because we have a group from North Hollywood that's fast on their heels. They won 8th place in the academic decathlon. But they're here not only to be recognized for their own achievements, which you have, I think, rightly shown the magnitude of the achievement, but they're also here to celebrate with 2 other North Hollywood High School teams, both of whom were in the National Science Bowl Championship, one of which, the B team, won 2nd place in the regional. But equally most exciting is that the North Hollywood High School A team won the National Science Bowl Championship. They are the national winners. And I think this just speaks amazingly well, members of council. You've seen El Camino with the National Academic Decathlon Champion. You've seen North Hollywood High School with 3 teams, including the National Science Bowl Championship. You have seen articles in Newsweek and Time magazine rating North Hollywood High School as one of the top 10 academic high schools in the United States. These are public schools in the Los Angeles Unified School District, reflecting the incredible diversity of the students that make up that district, and they do this city and in the LAUSD and this country really proud. And I think that I'm just thrilled to be able to have you here and be recognized. I know you were over at the Board of Supervisors, I think, earlier this morning, and before we make a little presentation to you, I'd like, of course, our good Mayor, Mayor Reardon, who has placed education as his top priority, and my colleague, Councilman Padilla, who represents North Hollywood High School, in North Hollywood area, to also say a few words.
I'll be very brief. I talked to these brilliant students a few minutes ago. But, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking in the faces of the future of our country, the brains that we need to compete with the rest of the world. And I'll tell you, we're in great hands. I mean, to win the national championship is unheard of. It's sensational. You know, how many thousands or tens of thousands of other high schools did they compete with? So you guys are the greatest. We're counting on you. We're going to retire and have you do all the work. Thank you very much.
I'm also proud of the 2 groups here this morning, but in particular North Hollywood High School. We've been hearing a lot about the Lakers lately, and we know they're the world champions in basketball, but these are also championships that mean a lot for the country and make us very, very proud here in the city of Los Angeles. The Academic Decathlon Championship is nothing to sneeze at, but it's the science championship that I think really speaks to the future of this country. We hear about the economy, the changing economy and the high-tech industries. We hear about our infrastructure challenges in Los Angeles and throughout the nation. And rest assured, there's engineers and scientists that will be on the job to bring about those solutions. And in particular, I want to ask Michael to stand here next to me. I'm going to show off your shirt. I don't know if you know this. Take a good look at this, everybody. I'm the only MIT graduate on City Council, so I just want to say I admire your shirt. And I know you must have been one of the backbones of the team here. Congratulations to the entire high school. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
The Science Bowl, as you know, is sponsored by the Department of Water and Power, which has been looking mighty good the last couple of years. And so I would like Walter, on behalf of the DWP, to perhaps say a few words. He's really put his heart and soul into this for a number of years.
Young adults, you're not children at all. Congratulate you. Council members Padilla, Wax, and myself are going to get you a sign bigger than El Camino got. Okay? Is that okay? I've got to go. See you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members Wax and Padilla, members of the City Council. It's a great honor for the Department of Water and Power to once again participate in the Science Bowl as a sponsor of the regionals. And just to remind everyone that this is the first national title for North Hollywood, but it's the fourth for LA Unified Schools. Van Nuys took the honors in '95, Venice in '96 and '97. North Hollywood placed second in the next 2 years and fourth last year, which means since 1995 our teams had 4 first, 2 second, and a fourth. Every year since '95 they placed winning in the top few schools, and it's a record to be proud of. No other area, city, regional, even state in the entire country, we're talking 40 states participating in this event, have done as well as our local students, and we're very much proud of them. I'd like also to recognize one of the main things that makes the Science Bowl possible, besides the city and the department and our other some private company sponsors, are our volunteers. I'd like to recognize, if I might, a few people from our volunteers. Our outgoing chair for 4 years, George Rafael, and our incoming chair, Eddie Aranda, and our chair of our site competition, who's here as well. And we'd like to recognize everyone here. And I want to thank you again for the Estela Buena, who's the chair of our site competition. And again, I'd like to thank you for the recognition for the students and as well as for the department. We're very proud and excited about this program.
Members of Council, just briefly, let me just introduce to you the members of the two teams which placed in runner-up positions, and then ask the members of the A team to perhaps come to the microphone and each just say a brief word. But of the academic decathlon, which placed 8th in the state, we're here today with their coach, Altair Main, and the team members, and you might just come forward just briefly so the council can see who you are when I call your names. If I hope I get them right. Yevgeny Goldenberg, Philip Tenedo, Michael Nagel, Jennifer Lowe, Christine Chung, Margaret Mitchell, must be a different one, Arthur Alonso, Leo Pasquale, and Varun Dadaboy? Absent. So then I don't know if I did right. And from the Science Bowl champions, the science teacher and the coach of both of the teams, someone you've met before, Len Soloff. Len, I'd like you to say a word or two.
Thank you for having us. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here. Working with these young people is also a pleasure and an honor. I try to convince my wife of this all the time. All it takes is a few hours a week and a group of dedicated students that work hard and like science, and it's just a pleasure for me and a highlight of a career. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. The members of the North Hollywood High School B team, which won second place in the Regional Science Bowl, Ed Marty, Maria Ho, Stephen, or is it Stephen or Stephen? Stephen Yao, Zabra Yazdani, and the captain, Natalie Stein. And the National Science Bowl Championship winners, first place, the United States of America. Please each come forward. David Lee. David, just tell us a little bit about your future plans.
I'm not quite sure yet. I'm still a junior, so we'll see you next year.
Well, then we'll see you down here next year when you repeat. Jean Shen.
I'll be attending Stanford University in the fall, and I'll probably major in genetics because I want to own a gene farm.
That's great. By then, it'll be at genefarm.com. Daniel Berson. Son? Is this Berson?
Hi. I'll be attending Columbia University in the fall, and I'll be probably majoring in civil engineering or physics.
Councilman Padilla is a mechanical engineer. Julia Hu.
Hi, I'm still a young one, so I'm in 11th grade like David, but I hope to follow Jeannie in her footsteps to Stanford.
And the captain of the North Hollywood High School National Science Bowl champion, Jeff Zira. Absent. Must be going to SC. No, sorry. Thank you very much.
Repeat.
Yeah.
Repeat. Jeff Zira is at this moment competing for the United States Chemistry Olympiad team in Colorado Springs, which is why he's not here.
Bravo, that is great. Thank you again, students. You have really made everyone, I know yourself and your families, but you've made everyone else really proud, and this is really what it's all about, and thank you very, very much for being here. That's great. We're going to go in the back. We have certificates for everybody. We're going to go in the back. We'll take some pictures.
Thank you, Mr. Wax, Mr. Padilla, and congratulations to our student winners. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 12 and 15 through 26 are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Okay, items 12, colleagues, and 15 through 26 are before us. Is there any person in the audience that wants to be heard on any of those items? I have no cards before me.
Mr. President?
Mr. Fewer.
If I could, with regard to item 23, there is an error that needs to be corrected in the first paragraph. Rather than state that these waivers should be in place indefinitely, the first paragraph should say for 1 year. And with that amendment, I would move 23. There's no A. They're just orally doing it. Hold on. Yes, 23A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, seeing no person in the audience that wants to be heard on any of the items, the public hearing is closed. Are there any specials, or does any council member wish to be heard on these items? Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll? Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items. Forthwith on 24 and 26.
Item number 28 on supplemental agenda is item for which a public hearing has been held.
Item number 28 is called special. Okay.
Items number 29 and 30 on the supplemental agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Is there any person in the audience that wishes to be heard on items 29 or 30? 29 special. Is any person in the audience wants to be heard on item 30? Seeing no person that wishes to be heard, public hearing is closed on item number 30. Is there any council member that wishes to be heard on item number 30? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on item 30? Mr. Fewer.
Could you just withhold for a second while I step out on this item?
Sure. Okay, is there any council member that wishes to be heard on item number 30? Seeing no council member that wishes to be heard, would you open the roll on item 30, Mr. Clerk, and tabulate the vote?
10 ayes.
That item is approved forthwith. Next.
Brings you back to item number 4, called special, from a member of the public wishes to speak.
Okay, we do have item number 4. Before us, Robert Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. It's a privilege to be here on such an important day, and also, dare I say, as a graduate of North Hollywood High School, it's also nice to be here. It's my understanding, Mr. President, that the recommendation of staff now is for the council to approve the assessment as a result of our client, the property owner, having paid it through escrow and has thereafter initiated a claim proceeding, and that's we're certainly willing to accept that.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is there any council member that wishes to be heard on item number 4? Seeing no council member that wishes to be heard, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on item number 4? Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That item is approved. Next item.
Item number 29 for amendment.
Let's hold item number 29 on the desk a moment.
Item number 7.
We do have some speakers cards. We did have a public hearing on this item in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. Mr. Burnson, this item is in my district, and would you do the courtesy of moving a 10-minute public hearing? Thank you very much. We have 3 cards in opposition, and we have quite a few cards in favor, but we will do a 10-minute public hearing on this item. First of all, we have Dale Friedley, Cheryl Sherman, Frank O'Brien. If those 3 individuals would please step up to the podium and pull the microphone right below your chin so we can all hear you. And you're welcome to all come up together and then speak in turn. We will allow 5 minutes for each side in order to be fair. So whoever would like to go first, you're more than welcome to identify yourselves as you step up and then go right ahead. Go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, council members. My name is Dale Friedley. I've lived in the area in question my entire life. The reason I'm against this development is because we are in sorrow need of open space. This area has been neglected ever since the railroad abandoned the property. What we would like to see happen there is that the city abide by the original plan to use abandoned railroad properties to develop open space green belt. We have a problem with graffiti in that area. Over on Vermont Avenue, they've got a block wall like the one that's proposed to go in this area that's got checkerboards on it from areas that have been spray painted and then covered with different paint to alleviate the graffiti. Over on Normandy Avenue and Halldale Avenue, those are thoroughfares for gang members to go from north of Torrance Boulevard to south of 223rd Street by Normandale Park. Normandale Park has been built up now to where it's only available for children to play baseball games, soccer games. For the older people that have pets and like to go on walks, that's what we want the green belt for. The city of Los Angeles found it feasible to buy some railroad property for downtown here, I noticed in the newspaper, and develop that for parkland. I don't see why they can't do that down in our area. We have been neglected for as long as I can remember because we are just nothing but a strip down through the middle of the town to get LA down to the harbor. I would appreciate it if you would not approve this development. An article I read in the newspaper stated that the city of Los Angeles is one of the most underparked cities in the nation. Please don't cram any more people into this area and make our quality of living go down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sherman?
Thank you, council members. My name is Cheryl Sherman, and I would briefly like to address a couple of issues regarding this project. First of all, 85% of the properties facing this proposed project are in excess of 5,000 square feet. This developer has asked for a variance for 4,500 square feet. I don't feel this conforms to the neighborhood. The neighborhood has no two-story homes facing the proposed project. All of the proposed homes will be two-story houses. Also, a comprehensive soil test has not been done on this property, and there is a Superfund cleanup project 1 block from the proposed project. Is there DDT contamination? Is there chlorobenzene? The railroad cars sat on that property for several years with that product on the cars. I think that there are several legal and technical issues that need to be resolved before an accurate decision can be made on the project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. O'Brien?
Thank you, council members. Congratulations, Rudy, on the conclusion of your term. This project has a lot of problems. I'm going to focus on one of them, and that's the existence of the high-pressure petroleum pipeline that underlies the right-of-way. The government code requires that no structure be built on top of any high-pressure pipeline. That's to provide access, obviously, for public safety matters. And the original mitigated negative declaration assumed that the pipeline would be left in place. So houses may not be built on top of a high-pressure pipeline. Among the conditions of approval, the applicant is going to be required, I believe, to remove the pipeline. However, that project element was not included in the original mitigated negative declaration. So what's happened is a new, significant new project element has been added, removing the pipeline, but that hasn't been studied. For that and for other reasons, I believe that it's inappropriate to approve this project at this time. It should be sent back for further environmental analysis. My comments are detailed in the letter that I'll leave with the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the comments against. We have 3 comments for. Mr. Wu.
Yeah. On item 26, can we do that forthwith, please?
Yes. Okay. Brian Chin, followed by Rafi Manazian, followed by Tilly Sias. Mr. Chin.
Hi. Good morning, council members. My name is Brian Chin, representing Garfield Financial Corporation. Just want to go over the merits of the project and what the Plum Committee approved unanimously on 3-0 vote here. Want to address pipeline issue. The pipeline, what the applicant is going to do is to abandon and relocate the pipeline. Yes, it was something that was brought up in the environmental mitigated negative declaration, but this is something we dealt with. We understand there could be some perceived health and safety issues, but the applicant has agreed to remove it at a cost of $1.5 million of their own money. Also, another condition that's been approved is a condition to remove all existing billboards. There are 7 billboards on the site, and those billboards will be removed as part of the conditions of approval. And also, the applicants agreed to dedicate a 17,000 square foot parcel of land to the Department of Recreation and Parks. I know that opponents argued open space, willing to put some open space there, but the fact of the matter is that all this property is zoned residential, and that to provide open space, there aren't enough funds to acquire the property and to maintain it. And the last comment I want to make is that the proposed density is much lower than what is allowed there by right. You can build over 103 units. The applicant's proposing 63 units. So I urge the council members to support the Plum Committee report and uphold it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rafi Manazian.
Good morning, council members. I'd like to thank the Planning and Land Use Management Committee for approving this project at the last phase. I just have a couple brief comments. One is that this piece of land has not been optimally basically put in use, and what this project does is revitalize the area, improve the property values within the area, and as Mr. Chin indicated, the proposed number of units is much less than the density that is currently allowed Much of the property is presently zoned residential. The project is consistent with what is in the area. And one of the last points I'd like to make, in addition to the billboard removal, is the fact that in terms of improvements to the area with regard to sidewalks, streets, gutters, and the like, there are over $2 million in improvements that are going to be going into that area that are going to be for public use. So I thank you for your consideration, and I urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Tilly Sayas? Ma'am?
Good morning. My name is Tilly Sayas, and I've been a resident in the area for 48 years. When this project started last year, the first meeting that Mr. Manassian had, I attended it, and he's been more than willing to cooperate with all of the community to whatever we wish he would try to accommodate us with. And when we talked about the green belt, I was on that panel about 25 years ago, and we did try to get a green belt, and at that time, I thought it would be a wonderful thing to happen in our community, but the way things have changed now, the element of people that we have in there, I really don't feel that it would be safe anymore. Not only that, Big Normandy is a very busy street, and if we were to put a green belt in there today, they would have to put a fence up, because I wouldn't want my children, if I had any children at home, playing in that area or walking in that area or doing anything for fear of something would happen. Now, Mr. Manassian has come to our homes. We've had meetings together for him to try to accommodate us in any way that he could, and it doesn't seem to appease the people that are not for the project. So all I can say is I think that he's done a fair offering of everything, and I think that at this time, the housing development would be the best thing. It would improve our property value, and it would give us some new people in there that would help us with the community to keep it safe as we want to keep it safe. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Joe, is it Foti?
Good morning. My name is Joe Foti, and I've been a resident of the area for about 25 years. We made a decision not to bring 20 or 25 people with us today in support of the project. I see the 3 committee members that we met with the last time saw the support we had. I have 50 letters here from people in the community that are for the project. And I wish this committee could see the positive of this project, in that there's a great buzz in our neighborhood now. Neighbors are talking about, well, we can improve our houses. Cheryl makes the comment that there's no 2-story homes on Little Normandy, and she's correct. However, 1 block over, there are some, and I myself always wanted to add a 2nd story to my home, but I didn't want to over be built for the area. And there's a lot of people that are now saying this gives us room to improve our property. There's a developer that lives in the area, and he's saying, I've got to expand my business. I've got people in this neighborhood who are now going to invest, and I've got to add on people and create jobs. With all due respect to Mr. Frank O'Brien, I have to disagree. He's talking about a technicality here, and basically those homes were never going to be built on the gas pipeline. The gas pipeline was going to be in the front lawn. So technically, those houses were never going to be built on the gas pipeline. And also, with due respect to Mr. O'Brien, we need a decision today. Our community needs to heal. We don't need this thing delayed. We need a decision. We need to heal, and we need to move on. Postponing it doesn't do anybody any good. There's been 28 years where we've had a chance to put a park or a green belt in there, and it hasn't happened in 28 years, and it's not going to happen in another 28 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I believe our time has expired. The remaining speakers, we will make your cards part of the file, as there was a hearing in Plum Committee. At this time, the chair would like to recognize Councilman Hernandez.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I rise as a member of the Plum Committee that reviewed this matter and wanted to move the unanimous report from the Plum Committee. The reality is this is quality housing when you look at the type of housing that's being built, and there was a reason why there was a lot of community support for the project. It has to do with eliminating a strip that basically is blighted, a strip that's been neglected, and converting it into residential homes, primarily for ownership. And in an area that I think basically could support it. Now, that's the perspective we received, not only from our planning department, but also from the community at large when we heard the testimony. It's a project that's been on the works for many years, but the property's been on the works probably more than that. And the reality is where 103 units could be built has been reduced to 63 units. Where a pipeline was a question is going to be removed, and a blighted area will be transformed into a community that hopefully will enhance the surrounding community that surrounds it.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Burnson.
Yes, members of the council, this is a potential project that that has been a little controversial, but you know, this is the old track lines that were there for many years, which have been abandoned. If it were a park and there were plans to make it a park, or recreation parks had the ability to make it a park, or the resources, we might be talking about something. But that hasn't happened in many years, and it doesn't appear to be going to happen. What is proposed is a housing development that will, in our opinion, add to the benefit of the community, provide housing. It will improve the value of homes rather than what you've heard. It will raise the value of homes in the area. I think the committee put the proper conditions in that will assure that this does not create any real problems for the area. And the committee unanimously approved it, and I would urge an aye vote on the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. Is there any other council member that wishes to be heard on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll and tabulate the vote?
11 ayes.
That item is approved forthwith. Next item.
Item number 29, an amending motion.
Mr. Padilla, amending motion on item number 29.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Actually, I will defer to Councilmember Hernandez, the grandfather of Prop K.
Yeah.
Abuelito Hernandez?
Yeah, members of the council, again, our reality is it's more and more difficult for us to have 12 council members present. And so I'd like to make a motion in regards to item 29, and I move that we amend items 4 and 5 to provide that the public hearing will take place on June 22nd, 2001, and 2, instruct the city clerk with the assistance of the city attorney to make the necessary corresponding amendments to the resolution of intention and the ordinance of intention, and 3, to approve the entire item 1 through 5 as amended.
Okay, we have item number 29 before us as amended by Mr. Hernandez. Is there any council member that wishes to speak on item number 29 as amended? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll and tabulate the vote?
11 ayes.
That item is approved.
Yeah, Mr. President, I appreciate my grandson allowing me to make this amending motion.
Forthwith. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
That brings you to item number 28.
Item number 28, colleagues, is now before us.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Miskowski.
All right.
Mr. President, I would like to move a 10-minute public hearing on the matter.
Is there any objection to a
Second.
10-minute public hearing on this item? Okay. With no objection, there will be a 10-minute public hearing. Before we begin the public hearing on item number 28, for those members in the audience who were here for item number 10 and filled out speakers cards, item number 10 has been continued 1 day until tomorrow. So for those of you in the audience who have filled out cards, this item will be heard tomorrow here in council chambers. Okay, so here we go with item number 28. As I call your names, if you would please come to the podium and again pull the microphone up in front of you so we can hear you. Gordon Murley, Sylvia Nickel, Sonia Appel, Zanville Green, and Marianne Cook.
Yes, thank you, President Savornich and Council. My name is Gordon Murley. I'm president of San Fernando Valley Federation. We sent you a letter telling you why we felt that what is before you is not acceptable. We were extremely happy to see that Councilwoman Cindy Mizikowski and Councilman Fuhr gave you an alternative to it, which we think fully fits what should be done in this city. There are those of us who have been fighting this since 1986, and what is before you, except for Councilwoman Mizikowski's motion, is the same thing that the public has never been considered in these items, that it's strictly backroom deals. And we think it's really an affront to the public that you have not spelled out what billboards will come down. You don't even have an inventory of the billboards. You have not enforced all the illegal billboards and the illegal signs in this city. So the original minority and majority reports do not address the complaints that the citizens of this city over the years have continually brought forth to their own council members. And I would think it would behoove you, since you are here to represent the people, to back Ms. Cindy Mizikowski, seconded by Fuhr's motion, because this is doing what should have been done for years. There are no penalties for what the sign industry has done. They have carte blanche to blight neighborhoods, and there are no monies to any degree for enforcement of it. So please back Ms. Cindy Mizikowski's motion. Thank you.
Sylvia Nickel, ma'am.
Sylvia B. Nickel, President of the West Side Residents Association. Good morning, honorable members of the City Council. This billboard issue affects the whole city and every citizen. Then why are the hearings held in downtown LA in the middle of the day when most people find it impossible to attend? The dynamics of this council will change soon. I don't believe you should exercise your moral authority to vote on this vitally important issue today. The newly formed City Council should take up this issue again in neighborhood, town-style meetings all over the city. Building on City Councilwoman Mizikowski's amendment would be a good start. It is not perfect, but it would be a good start. First, the illegal billboards should be removed. Then, a real hard look has to be taken on the billboard exchange program. We may not wish to give away a 50-year ban on freeway signs. In view of the above, I urge you to shelf this item. And would it be appropriate for me to wish Councilman Joel Wax a fond adieu? Thank you so much for helping us on this slow issue. LA's loss will be New York's gain. Thank you.
Sonia Appel.
Yes, my name is Sonia Appel. I live in Mar Vista. There are about 4,000 illegal billboards in the city. They are illegal in that the billboard industry deliberately installed them without permission, knowing full well that they would probably not be found out. There was only one word that describes this kind of behavior, and that word is unscrupulous. One of the definitions of unscrupulous that I think fits this situation perfectly is conscientiously dishonest. I don't understand why the council is even considering a proposal put forth by unscrupulous people who have deliberately cheated and deceived the city in more ways than one. One wonders about the integrity of anyone who would support overturning a 50-year ban on freeway billboards for the sole purpose of accommodating the needs and goals of this industry. There is something very wrong with this picture. The 4,000 illegal billboards must come down and a permanent moratorium on billboards be put in place. These two acts would go a long way to reducing the visual pollution that permeates this city, and I'm counting on this council to do the right thing. Thank you.
My name is Zanville Green. I represent the Tarzana Property Owners Association and the Tarzana Tennis Townhomes Association. That's a 124-unit complex in Tarzana. It is decades since this city needed to act in the public good regarding billboards. To allow the billboard industry to call the shots is outrageous. To even consider new billboards on freeways is turning back the clock. Not to even know how many illegal billboards exist is negligence. The will of the citizenry is to ban all billboards. Please start now to do this by adopting the provisions of the substitute motion. Thank you.
Ms. Cook?
Good morning. I'm here once again representing the unrepresented 4th and 13th Council District, the Silver Lake community. We are profoundly affected by the existing and proposed billboards and want to formally request that you continue both the first and second motion until we have representation. Hopefully today, one for the 13th Council District and in September for the 4th. The billboard industry has obviously boondoggled you into thinking that they were giving you something. I want to assure you that they're not giving you anything. We profoundly ask that you continue this motion until we have representation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. George Maniak, followed by Ken Spiker Jr., followed by Betsy Mines.
Thank you for hearing me today. President General Manager of Eller Media Company, and I just wanted to make the comments. Number one, there are not 4,000 illegal billboards in this city of Los Angeles. There is no way that number, that could be being confused with on-site, on-premise, banners, street banners, and the like. Additionally, we will back any motion that says that we'd be happy to have you check our permits and take a look at every one of them. You will find them to be in compliance. As far as the motion before you today, it must be a fair trade. Otherwise, nothing will happen. If there's a motion with 3 bulletins, large ones in it, it will not happen. There'll be no takedowns in the city of Los Angeles. You'll not be able to meet your goals. You'll not be able to clean up the streets. We're happy to comply in that area, but it must be economically feasible. Thank you.
Mr. Spiker, followed by Ms. Mines.
Mr. President, members of City Council, I just want to make one comment to remind everybody that what we're potentially doing today is to vote to send this proposed ordinance to the Planning Commission. And the next City Council, I think it's quite obvious, would make the final decision. There is no plan by the industry to try and sneak this through. I think when you hear from staff, and I hope you do let staff make a presentation, we will take care of this illegal billboard erroneous statements that the LA Times has stated. And a number of the council members have stated. We will show permits on every billboard we have. The staff needs to be heard from so we can put this to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Mines?
Good morning. I'm Betsy Mines from Glass Hill Park Improvement Association. We were here last week and presented a petition to the council in May. And we would just like to say that we think the substitute motion is an improvement over the trade-off, but whatever we can do to reduce the blight is what we're after. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speakers, Gerald Silver, Ted Wu.
Good morning, honorable council members. This is about, I guess, the 15th year we've been here on this issue. There is not one single organized community organization, not one, that supports the Ridley-Thomas motion. The only support is a perceived support around the horseshoe. There is absolutely universal support for Cindy Mizikowski's motion. Now let's get these items clear. Her motion does not address the amortization issue and the trade-off and all of those things. Those we can address later. But it does some basic and required things. One, it puts in place a moratorium that's permanent. Had we done that in 1988, and Joel, I know you voted against that, I hope you won't hold that against me, but if we had voted that in 1988, we wouldn't be addressing this problem today. The second thing is it helps you define the problem. It defines the problem by requiring the posts to show the number, the permit number. It also addresses a graffiti issue, and it has nothing to do with the trade-off. That substitute motion must be passed. And frankly, if it's not passed today, it will be passed by the next council. And I simply ask on behalf of the hundreds of homeowner and community and residents associations who are on our email list, who we communicate with daily, we ask, please, reconsider your position. And Mr. Hernandez, others, Mr. Holden, I know you have strong feelings about this, and Mr. Bernson also. You know, you voted against us in '88. And I'm hoping now, as this august body winds down its efforts, that you support the Mizikowski motion. It is supported by the residents and no one else. Thank you.
Mr. Wu.
Thank you, President and council members. I'm here to say a few words, not repeating, I promise, on behalf of West Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. Up to now, it's been homeowners, so we have a chance to hear from the local merchants. At the recent Board of Directors meeting, a unanimous vote to pass, to urge you no vote on this erection of any billboards along our freeways. These billboards has negative impact on the image of our city, hindering business development and economic welfare of our local communities. Also including the motion, we'll ask you to enforce your present ordinance and take down all illegal billboards. May I submit this letter from the West LA Chamber of Commerce. In closing, I also would like to remind you that we have recorded history of what the billboard industry has been doing. It's all a matter of deceit, fraud, and illegality. Anytime you want to look into that, I'll be more than glad to submit the files on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have gone a few minutes over the allocated 10 minutes. We do have some cards remaining. We are going to make them part of the file. I would like to thank those who are here in regards to all sides of this issue. At this time, the chair would like to recognize Councilman Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, pursuant to our discussion on this past week, where we did have a rather interesting and I would like to say informed discussion, even debate about the merits and or the demerits of the issue that's before us. I simply want to say that since that time, we've moved closer to consensus. You'll recall that we had three distinct proposals before us as they came from the Planning Department report. Number one was the minimalist approach, if you would. Number two was the more far-reaching approach. And number three was an alternative. I did move scenario number three as it was proposed, and what is before you today is 28D, which amends scenario three, which is the more realistic alternative that was proposed by the planning department, and I suspect it was for that reason that it was in fact proposed. Let me just simply add to that we have the following points of clarification. You recall that Ms. Misakowski brought in a motion. I've attempted to integrate in 28D a number of the points that were made in her motion. You recall that Mr. Pacheco made a statement concerning the extent to which he thought the ratio should be 70-30. You'll find that in 28D as well. The point is that this effort now is focusing on cleaning up illegal billboards by requiring display of permits and developing a citation program. In addition to that, provisions for maintenance standards are included. And I believe that we have now reached a point that we can move forward. All of us essentially agree that billboards constitute what is considered by many standards of measurement a blight. Why? Because of the overconcentration. What we are trying to do is reduce that to give communities relief, businesses, as well as residential environments. And I believe that in order to do that, we have to make sure that our legislation is realistic, that it achieves the desired outcome. This has been a tough issue for more than a decade that we have wrestled with. If we achieve reducing the number of billboards, if we achieve, as is in the Planning Committee report, a ban on billboards, and if we achieve the things that cause for a more healthy environment with respect to those two things, I believe we can celebrate a victory today. It is my concern that we do so today because it is time to move forward. I think we can defensively do so. Members of the council, it's time to move forward, and I would urge our moving forward with scenario 3 and the amendments before us, which would be 28D. Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Misakowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's interesting to note that in the sign task force, the Plum Committee, and the City Council, there has not been a citizen, let alone a citizen representing a citizens organization, who has spoken in support of this effort. Every citizen who has spoken, who is not associated with the billboard industry, has spoken against it. Members of the council, we just went through a large charter change, talked about neighborhood councils, talked about empowering our communities. Our communities are telling us not to do this. At least, again, I have not seen one community representative say other than that. The representative from the industry said that it was a misnomer to say that there were 4,000 signs that might be in violation. I'm reading from a May 3rd, 2001 Building and Safety Staff Report to the Ad Hoc Committee budget. It is estimated that 40% of all existing off-site signs have code violations. That is our Building and Safety Department statement. That is not just hearsay. Mr. Ridley Thomas said that the most reasonable, I think I heard that was the most reasonable, realistic proposal was scenario 3. Scenario 2, which is the one that he said was most far-reaching, is actually the one that is recommended by the Planning Department. Do you know why it's not being recommended today by the committee? Because the billboard industry said they couldn't live with it. We are talking about dealing with the billboard issue. We have blight. We have problems. We haven't done a good job in maintenance. We haven't done a good job in requiring those that are blighted, are torn, are defaced, are in areas where they are inappropriate. We haven't gone after them, and we should. The only reason now that we're talking about that is if we give the billboard company an incentive. If we give them and lift the 50-year ban that this city has had to say we shall not put them on freeway right-of-ways. That is something that I think distinguishes this city. It is clearly, if you look at other municipalities, other states, they are going to ban billboards. They have banned billboards. Some major cities, both across the country and in the state of California. What are we doing? We're going in the other direction. We're saying our freeways, which have been inviolate for 50 years, you may now have access to. And where are we going to do that? In some of our gateway areas. We are talking about refurbishing, revitalizing downtown. Look at these maps and look at the number. The gateway to downtown is going to be Billboard Alley. That is not the way to go. Again, I think we can look at an amortization after we get the facts, after we look at enforcing and tightening our regulations about those that are illegal, about requiring the signage on the billboard so that there's a simple barcode which says this is a legal one, you can move on, about the citations that will be issued and should be issued and should have been issued for those that are defaced and blighting our community. We ought not to move forward with that is presented by the billboard industry, different from that was presented by our own planning department. This doesn't even go into the issue of a transportation study, a traffic safety study, an environmental study, all of which have to be done before anything moves forward. A vote today, even if it was perceived a vote in favor of this, is not going to move anything forward very quickly. The planning department has told us we need to do an environmental assessment on the whole impact of what we're talking about.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The chair recognizes Councilman Pacheco.
I haven't said anything. Mr. President, colleagues, as tempting as it is to follow Cindy Miskowski's lead on this matter, this weekend I sent out my staff, and that's one of the privileges we get as the council members. We have staff who can help us with this work. And they did a survey of the district, and based on their rough estimates, about 60% of the billboards that we encounter in our communities of El Sereno and Boa Heights and parts of Highland Park are the smaller size billboards. And they're not owned by Regency or Eller. And so there's a large concern that the blight that we're trying to remove isn't part of the package. And we may find ourselves in a position where the big companies, Regency and Aller, want to participate and be a part of this process, but the net effect is we're removing medium-sized or large billboards that the community don't find as offensive. And I have pictures here. I can show you hundreds of pictures that were taken over the weekend of smaller size billboards that are abandoned, tattered, and really represent blight in our community. And it's even more offensive is that we have these small billboards on commercial buildings, and the commercial buildings that they sit on even have signs of blight. So we know that the property owner there isn't using the revenue from these billboards to remove the blight on their own buildings. So at this juncture, I am not ready to support 28D as it sits because I have a real concern that I'm not going to be able to grab those companies. So I would like an ordinance that gives us the power to grab those companies that may not be at the table with us. Two, I really believe scenario number 2 from the revised attachment D, the square footage, is the most flexible and most advantageous for my district. And I see that the amendment contains scenario number 3. So I believe, and I can share this with you, that my staff overwhelmingly came back from that survey motivated to support some sort of program that eliminates those billboards. And they actually felt that the freeway option shared the pain. That it wasn't just in our communities, but actually shared the pain by removing some of it. I'm over. Okay. Sorry, Mr. President. So I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not ready to support it today as it stands. And just a final note, I feel very uncomfortable considering this when Council District 9 is not here and they're carrying 50% of the new ones as it's or close to 50% of the new ones. So I'll listen to further debate and we'll see where we get on these issues.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Burnson.
Yeah, members of the council, I was prepared to bring in some changes today, but when I saw what Councilman Ridley Thomas had prepared, they basically covered the things that I was concerned about. This, you know, some of the opponents of this make it sound like we like billboards. None of us are enamored with billboards. In fact, I didn't quite have the same experience that Mr. Fuhr had in this last election, but when I first ran for office, Mayor Bradley, who was supporting my opponent, made sure I couldn't buy a billboard. So I started out that way with them also. You know, this is an opportunity to rid communities of undesirable boards. You shouldn't look at this as something that's going to open the door for a lot of new boards, because it's just the opposite. This is something that gives you the opportunity to remove a lot of boards. And you know, if you travel throughout the state, you'll see that there are billboards all over next to highways. You know, Los Angeles is one of the areas that doesn't permit this. And please, you know, if you want to stay in the council chambers, you're using my time, and I don't appreciate it, okay? I got your point of view, and I was courteous when you talked. I didn't make noise, okay? The point is that Los Angeles is an area that doesn't allow this, and we have an opportunity to trade off. Basically, I think on the formula, you replace one side for 19 other sides if you reduce it to one large board instead of 3 large boards. And that is an opportunity to get rid of approximately a tremendous amount of signs that are improper or we don't like in our neighborhoods. Now, somebody mentioned the fact that there's just 2 companies. This is not based on 1 or 2 companies. This legislation is enabling legislation. That's all it is. It would allow any company that wishes to try to erect a sign in an area that would meet the requirements to take down signs, so it needn't be the signs that belong to these 2 major companies that are supposedly the ones that are supporting this. It's enabling legislation. Also, in the legislation is a prohibition against any new boards in the city of Los Angeles. No new boards can go up in Los Angeles as part of this ordinance. And part of the thing, and the amendments that were made by Councilman Fuhr require a production of lists of all the permitted signs in the city within 60 days. That gives building and safety the opportunity to go out and identify the signs that are there illegally, and we can find a way to deal with them, because I think all of us want to deal with them. And by the way, the 4,000 that you're talking about are not all illegal signs. There's some that have violations. There may not be near that amount. I am told that in the past 15 years that there have been no illegal signs that have gone up without permits. There were before that period of time. I'll press my button again.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. The chair recognizes Councilman Hernandez.
Members of council, if I could have staff come up, and I want the city attorney and building and safety and planning to please come up. And Mr. Chair, you'll hold my time. I have some questions, but they never gave a report. Because I have some comments I'd also like to make, but I'm going to address some questions to staff that I'd like them to answer, and then I'd like to be able to make my comments. I'd like to ask Building and Safety to please tell us what they believe are illegal billboards and why it is that they haven't enforced the city law and taken them down. I'd like the city attorney to tell the entire council, as well as the audience that's here, why it is that they're not enforcing illegal billboards and taking them down. And I'd like the planning department to share how it is that the zoning of the city has allowed more billboards in certain communities than it has in others. And why it is that residential homes could actually have a billboard in their front yard in districts like Mr. Pacheco's and mine, and not in districts like Ms. Sikowski's and Fierce. So I'd like to know if you could address those three questions, please, at this time.
Dave Keim, I'm the Chief of Building and Safety's Code Enforcement Bureau. With regard to your first question, Councilman, what's an illegal sign and what's a legal sign? There are really three categories, and I'll simplify this as best I can. If a sign has a permit originally, it was constructed with a permit, and that sign today is in compliance with the limitations of that permit in terms of its height, size, design, orientation, that is a legal sign, and that's about the simplest way we can define that. It is permitted originally, and it has not gone beyond the scope of what that permit allowed in terms of its size, height, design, orientation. In terms of what is not legal, in the report that Councilmember Ms. Sikowski referred to that went to the ad hoc budget subcommittee, we talked about 40%, as much as estimated, again, this is only an estimate, as much as 40% of the existing off-site or billboard signs may have code violations, and I want to define what that means. First of all, a sign is considered not to be legal or to have code violations if it was originally permitted, it was constructed with a permit, but has a technical violation of the scope of that permit in terms of its size, placement, height, shape, and orientation. That is, it may have been enlarged as an example. That is technically illegal in that it has been enlarged outside of the scope of the permit. It doesn't mean, however, that the billboard was not permitted to begin with. And in cases where we encounter those signs, it's usually on a complaint basis. We'll go out, inspect, verify the original limitations of the permit, issue an order to comply, and require not for the sign to be removed, but for the sign to conform to the original limitations of the permit. The last category are those signs which were never permitted according to both our records and when the owner of the sign is unable to produce a permit or verification that was ever permitted. That's the last category of what we consider illegal. And again, I need to stress, the estimate of 40% that we came up with in that ad hoc budget report, we believe the majority of that 40% falls into that second category, and that is the signs were permitted but not meeting the scope of the original permit. And your second question, why haven't we enforced? Council member, I've tried to make a habit of never coming to any of you and complaining about lack of staffing, and I hate to do it now. But the simple reality is that the function has been unsupported for a number of years in the department, and we have 6 inspectors doing both proactive surveys and complaint-based work. And that's the limit of what we have right now. We also have 2 inspectors that do new construction permitted signs, but that's the limitation of our staff.
Okay, City Attorney.
Honorable members, Sharon Seedorf Cardenas, Assistant City Attorney. I'm in the Civil Division, and however, the question that Councilman Hernandez asked goes to the Criminal Division, but what I can do is I can describe the process for you of what happens when we go to enforce a citation. The Department of Building and Safety issues a citation. If they don't get compliance, they can then refer the citation to our criminal branch, who will then file a complaint based on that citation with the court. Basically, at that point, the handling of the citation or what happens to it is in the court's hands. We have an opportunity for a trial to prove that the violation exists, but then as to any fine that's imposed, that's totally within the discretion of the judiciary.
But you don't file very many.
I don't have any statistics as to how many cases are brought over, and of those, how many we filed, no.
Well, according to the report at the ad hoc committee, very few are actually filed.
And if I can, I can just add to that, council member, very few cases are actually referred to the city attorney's office because for the most part, ultimately, we're in the very high 90 percentile range on voluntary compliance. Now, I need to qualify that. We get it eventually. We get voluntary compliance eventually without having to file with the city attorney or request a filing with the city attorney, but it takes a long time because there is an appeal process. and we're required by law to allow that appeal process to play out. And that can take months or longer. And then you have the civil matter of civil litigation. Sometimes one of the last straws is a civil suit will be filed against the city on an order that building and safety has been issued, and that holds up the process as well. So I don't need to defend the city attorney's office, but I need to say that very few are actually filed or requested to be filed with the city attorney's office, because ultimately, once we get through that very long, cumbersome appeal process, we do get compliance.
The Planning Department.
Yes, my name is Frank Eberhard, a member of the Planning Department staff. The answer is two parts. First of all, older zoning did not have regulations. Signs were established in the past that were not legal and therefore are vested. Certainly at the current time, we have zoning. It is equally applies, the rules equally apply to any and every part of the city. And therefore, currently, there's no difference between one part of the city and the other as to how signs are permitted.
Okay, if I could now speak. Thank you. Members of the council, this is a very complex issue. And, you know, I came into the council having a problem with billboards, and I was dealing with primarily content, because at that time, the billboards in our neighborhoods were advertising liquor, liquor, and liquor. And it bothered me. And they were advertising it by schools. And then I found out that part of our problem was that the law allowed them to go up within 500 feet on commercial corridors. And I happen to have schools on commercial corridors. I also found out that I had billboards in front of people's homes. And I found out that they were permitted because they were on commercial corridors, even though people live there. And see, I wish my district was more like Encino, but it's not. If you go on 3rd and Alvarado, you'll see a big California State Lottery billboard that is basically an arm's length away from an apartment window that people can touch. And that billboard is in front of that slumlord's apartment building. The reality is, when you travel downtown, you see billboards off the freeway, because a lot of these signs have magically, through their permit process, been able to kind of change to face the freeway. And yet we try and get enforcement, and we haven't been able to do it. See, what's bothersome to me about the motion introduced by Councilmember Misikowski and Councilmember Fuhr is it doesn't remove any signs. It doesn't propose a budget allocation so that building and safety can do its job. It doesn't direct the city attorney to file more of these claims and to come up with a plan to force billboard companies to do what they're supposed to do. It's not going to alleviate the problems I have in my district. Now, what will help is a tool that allows us to take them down. And that's why I have mixed feelings about what's before us. Because I already know we have billboards on our freeway corridors. It's a reality. In fact, some of my streets are treated like freeways. And I want to be able to take billboards down. And if it takes a voluntary program to make that happen, I'm willing to support that. But it's extremely important that we reinforce the tool to be able to take them down. And that's not what's being discussed at this time. So when the billboard industry comes up with a recommendation, I think part of it is because they see the writing on the wall. But let's not kid ourselves that the city attorney knows the kinds of resources it takes to enforce the law, and the reality is we don't spend that kind of money to enforce a misdemeanor. And the billboard companies know that. So again, I'm sitting here saying, let's do what we're supposed to do. I don't want to lose the option of the two, because I got many, many billboards in my neighborhoods which happen to be commercial residential, which happen to be by schools, that I want to take down.
Thank you.
And that's been my focus.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Fuhr.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I think there are a couple or three different issues that we're trying to grapple with. One is too many billboards. Another is the way the billboards that exist are kept up. Another is the process by which we go after or fail to go after billboards that shouldn't be up or that aren't being maintained properly. Those are at least among the issues that we have here. It seems to me that we're proceeding out of sequence to deal with those issues. If we think that there are illegal billboards in whatever quantity, those billboards could be 4,000, they could be 2,000, they could be 1,600. There are a number of illegal billboards, and I would wager that a number of those that are in some manner in violation of codes are the very ones Mr. Pacheco was speaking about earlier. If we think that those exist, shouldn't we first get rid of those before we proceed to the other ones? Because unless, can someone be sure that I'm correct about this? Isn't it true that even under amended motion 28D, the pool of billboards from which the city could choose in determining which ones go down is pre-selected by the billboard companies? Then we can choose within that pool, but only within the pool that they pre-select. Isn't that right? All right. So for all we know, they could choose a pool of billboards, a number of which are not legal. Why would we put ourselves in that position? But that's deeply embedded in this, you see. There are some extremely legitimate concerns being raised about number and about quality and about the speed with which we deal with it. Regarding that speed issue, let me ask this question. Ms. Cardenas, is there anything in law that would preclude us from speeding up the process that was described by Dave Keim as being too cumbersome, takes too long to deal with the appeals? Nothing in state. Couldn't we change that within the city of Los Angeles to condense that appeal process?
Under the Building and Safety Code, it's in 980403, which deals with the
Is that a
authority
building and safety code of the state or the city?
of the board. No, of the Los Angeles Municipal Code.
Okay.
What it provides is that the board has jurisdiction until such time as basically the matter has been referred over for criminal prosecution. So
Okay.
that if it was referred over earlier in the process, then that
We could
cut out
change
some
the
of the appeals.
process and make it more concise is the point. You see, what I'm saying is, I think that, Mr. Hernandez just delivered a speech with which I largely agree about the location of billboards, the quality of them, the concentration of them, the content of them. Much of that speech was part of the process that led us to preclude tobacco and alcohol billboards from being within school sites and playgrounds and neighborhoods and houses of worship. There's a lot of legitimacy to that. But why are we proceeding this way? There's a lot of 28D with which I agree. Much of it comes from Ms. Mizakowski's motion, which I seconded. There are some embellishments, one of which I think is a good idea, that requires there to be action taken regarding defaced frontage and poles and so forth. We could add that too. But why would we go the whole 9 yards in the other direction? Why can't we choose the best of this motion and not give the billboard companies, but to say to us, you choose from this pool of billboards, illegal or not, and then we can try to get rid of them. Get rid of the legal ones first.
Thank you, Mr. Fuhrer. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Chick.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I think maybe I'm hoping we're getting someplace here. The whole issue of how the billboards that are to come down are chosen, which ones are chosen, has been very problematic for me. It doesn't make sense to me, it's never made sense to me that we're going to ask or allow the billboard companies to decide which ones, in particular when we are trying to enforce our rules, our codes, and get rid of ones that are non-compliant, illegal, etc., the most egregious. It seems to me that there's not an enormous amount of difference in these two proposals. A significant one, 1D allows for billboard signs to go up, but delivers to us problematic billboards coming down. And I don't see any other way for us to get to that that's doable. I think it's disingenuous of us to talk about this enforcement program without what Mr. Hernandez said in terms of the budget allocation. And let's not forget, we just went through a budget, and I don't remember anybody standing up and fighting for resources for this. So let's get real, and if what we want to do is to start to better control the worst-case billboards and lower the number and keep on doing that, then I think we have to be realistic, and that's why I've always been interested in Mr. Ridley Thomas's proposal. So I'm going to end and look to, I believe, Mr. Ridley Thomas, or someone with the city attorney's assistance, in right now how we can change that process of which billboards come down. Because certainly we should be able to find a way, working with our city staff, to focus on the ones that shouldn't be there to begin with, according to our current rules.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and how refreshing to have a council member that speaks within their time limit. Chair recognizes Councilman Wax.
Well, I'll even use less than my time. I sort of agree with a lot of things that different people are saying, no matter where they ultimately come down on this. I go back to the issue of the illegals, and Mr. Keim did a good job of pointing out two kinds. One that didn't have valid permits in the first place, and second, that have not maintained that have allowed them to go beyond the conditions of the permit, the original permit. I think in being realistic, Ms. Chick, that you go to the leverage that you have. And I think even more being realistic, you don't have to treat everyone the same way. You reward those who obey the law and punish those who don't. I'd like to see a proposal added to whatever we pass that basically says that before the trade-offs are allowed to be effected that are called for in the original concept, the billboard companies who seek those have to show that they have both valid permits and that the boards are in conformity with those permits. And if that means that some have obeyed the law all along or do something to correct it, they can get the trade-off. And those who haven't have to bring it up to code before they do. Because that way you reward those who have honored the law and you punish those who haven't. And you make the onus on them to come forward, here is my permit, and go out and look, it is in conformance with it. And if that's true, then I think that we have gotten something we're not going to get in any other way, and certainly not in any other financially feasible way. And they will get something in return. And I don't think you need a law that says everyone is treated the same way. I think you can distinguish, and you can use the leverage. And the only time you get leverage is when each person wants something in return. This offers that opportunity. So basically, I could vote for any number of the approaches before here, so long as there is a condition of whichever one gets passed, that before and I don't know how you define it, Mark, before any company receives the benefit of the broader trade-off, they must show that they have, for all of their boards, valid permits, and that the boards are in compliance with the conditions of those permits when issued.
Thank you, Councilman Wax. The chair recognizes Councilman Ridley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, several things have been indicated that I think give us an opportunity to satisfy the range of concerns that have been raised. Let me begin by suggesting that the Miskowski-Fuhr Amendment number 6 that directs the Building and Safety Department to report to the Planning and Land Use Management, Budget, and Finance Committees within 30 days with recommendations to create a yearly billboard registration fee for all billboards. That item should be included as a part of 28D, Mr. Clerk. Additionally, if you would take note of this point, valid permits must be provided to the city for eligible demolitions unless the council office specifically approves an eligible demolition for which a valid permit can be provided, pursuant to a way of tightening this that was suggested by Mr. Bernsen, and Mr. Clerk will have this for your review. Finally, I want to say on the question of illegals, the matter that was already in the Miskowski-Fuhr motion, Mr. Wax, takes care of that. When you look at 28D, it's to request the city attorney with the Building and Safety Department to draft an official correspondence to all billboard companies operating sites in the city of Los Angeles, requiring them to produce permits for all of their locations within 60 days. It moves on to from that to talk about the specific treatment of illegal billboards. And finally, Mr. President, members of the council, the flexibility that we sought is here. This is with item 28D as an amendment to scenario 3 as it was proposed by the planning department, essentially allows us to either choose a number of billboards or square footage. Therefore, those who have an overconcentration of small billboards can negotiate accordingly to get them aggressively taken down, as is the desire of Mr. Pacheco, as an example. Those who have these large billboards, namely the bulletins, can deal with that on a negotiated basis, as is the case in, for example, the district that Mr. Fuhr represents, CD5, or the district that Ms. Mizakowski represents, CD11. What I think we've effectively done now, Mr. President, is incorporate as effectively as we can the range of concerns as they have been articulated by practically everyone around the horseshoe, with the clear understanding that if we want to move forward and reduce and or remove blight from our neighborhoods and commercial corridors, there's a balance that needs to be struck. I want to commend the planning department for all the work it did in trying to sort this out, and it is to be acknowledged that it's a rather complicated issue, formulas and the like. The building and safety department will have a renewed responsibility to step up its enforcement pursuant to the motion that's before us and its amendments, and in effect what we are saying, Mr. Keim, this proposal fuels your efforts because of the registration fees and the like, can effectively support additional staff persons to make this happen. Mr. President, I thank you for the opportunity to address all of these issues in this fashion.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Mizakowski.
I appreciate that that item that had been in my substitute motion has now been added to 28D, but I think it really points to the issue, and that is we need to know first what we have, what is legal. We need to give Building and Safety Department teeth, which is actually what the fee had done in my motion. This council has been concerned with a lot of things over the years, and finally we have started to put efforts into increasing street mile repaid, starting to fix sidewalks, which had not been done for years. This motion, my substitute motion, gave the teeth to Building and Safety to enforcement by creating a fee, a directly related fee to enforcement from the industry that was benefiting, similar to what has been done in other cities, and was going to give them, in terms of the structure that they outlined that was needed, the enforcement, asking those billboard industries to come forward with what they had legal permits on. Then with this situation in hand, we could have gone after the illegal ones because we had created teeth and giving them the inspectors. I still believe we need to do that first, separate from the other. All the members of the council who are saying, I might go for the other, I might go for a trade-off, are all saying, I want to know first what is real, what is legal, what can we do with that, just the enforcement of that is legal. It's going to take us a long time to get there as a precedent to doing anything else. It also was interesting, in commending the planning department, let me also point out that the planning department recommended scenario 2 as the one that would be more substantive, would be, even if you were going to go that approach, from the planning department perspective, what they thought we ought to achieve. I don't believe we ought to ask for the drafting of the ordinance for the freeway, lifting of the ordinance of the freeway ban until we really know what we have in hand. Mr. Pacheco has also pointed out that those billboards that are the worst in his district have not been part of the recommendation that has been coming forward in terms of the removal. We are now talking about amending the removal process by letting the council have control, or the council have some decision on it. Again, these were ideas and scenarios that we played out in committee and in the assigned task force, and we were told by the industry that they couldn't accept that.
Yes. Mr. President, if I may, this proposal, as we are trying to build consensus, is not a proposal that is aimed at satisfying the industry. To the contrary, this is a proposal that moves as far as it can in the public interest. There are industry representatives who don't like it, and therefore we should proceed.
That was on Councilwoman's time.
If we were going to do what the billboard industry didn't like, we would do what the planning department recommended, which is scenario 2.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, the chair recognizes Councilman
He was there
Burnson.
for a reason.
The council, I appreciate Mr. Ridley Thomas adding the valid permit for eligible demolitions clause that I had proposed in the motion that I set aside in favor of his. I would ask that we add one other amendment, and that would be that all new billboards shall meet standard landscaping requirements to be developed by the city. And I hope you would accept that also. Let me just say, members of the council, in contrary to what you just said, Ms. Misakowski, there will be no permits issued for new signs until we have a inventory provided by the permitted signs in the city, because those are the only ones there's going to be able to be a trade-off on. That's included in the ordinance. Also included in the ordinance is a ban against any new billboards in the city. In fact, this council, at my request, enacted a moratorium. We currently do not allow any new billboards to be constructed while we're debating this ordinance and what's going on in our task force on all signs in the city. So what we're trying to do basically is to either you have to make up your mind, either want to do something about the existing signs or you don't. Because if we don't enact something that gives us the ability to take signs down, they'll just remain. All the undesirables will remain, and unfortunately, with a ban on new billboards, which will take place regardless of what we do, those billboards will become more valuable and there'll be less inclination for them to be taken down. So the only thing that I would suggest, other than what has already been suggested, and nobody has determined what approval process will be upon the list of boards that are going to be supplied by the companies, we might possibly, if that were, my assumption would be, if there were not an agreement reached somehow on the number of which signs were going to be taken down, then there wouldn't be a permit issued on the new one. So I do think we have leverage, and I think we have the ability to pick out signs and say, look, your list is great, but there's a couple of signs we want down that are not on your list. And if they want the permit bad enough, they'll take those signs down. If they don't, then you won't have the new sign along the freeway, and you won't take those down. That's as simple as the way the thing works. So, Jerry, you can shake your head all you want, but I've never noticed anything you were for since I've been here, okay? And that's a fact. So the point is that I don't like billboards any more than any of you do, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to get rid of some unsightly boards. Now, it's up to you. You either want to do something or you don't. But all the protections are already in there. There cannot be any new permits issued until we know that the signs that are going to come down are permitted. We also have the ability to enforce, that's not part of this ordinance, but if we know who the signs that are not permitted, we don't have permits for, because we're asking for furnishing, Building and Safety has the ability then to go out and know and identify quickly which signs were not furnished with permits for, and those can be brought into compliance. And the task force, I'll conclude, I won't press my button again. The task force is going to continue its work. We're not just dealing with billboards, we're dealing with all signs, and we want to make this city a better place and a more aesthetic place, not to be burdened by signs that bring down our community and make us look bad. And I think this ordinance is a step in the right direction, and I would urge an aye vote as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. The chair recognizes Councilman Pacheco.
Mr. President, first of all, I want to commend all of our colleagues for having such a hearty debate on this matter. It's been a while since we had one. But I still, see, what I'm struggling with, if anyone can help me with this, are two things. One is a certain company owns 60 to 70% of the ones in my district. Can someone guarantee me that they will participate 60 to 70% on the ones that come up so that I can get 60 to 70% coming down in my district? If I can get that guarantee that they will be part of the ones that come up, then I'm assured that I'm going to take down the ones I find most offensive, or at least the ones that we have observed. We haven't observed all of them, but if someone can give me that direct correlation, that direct relationship, then I think we're actually working to remove blight in my district. Otherwise, I feel a little unsettled that I'm not getting what I'm being promised. So I'm not really ready to move forward on this as it is today. There's also, if I understand the process right now, if there's no meeting of the minds between the council office and the industry, then we are not going to, it goes to the commission. So if we can remove that step and require that there be a meeting of the minds between the council office and the industry, then I think we're being more in compliance with what Mr. Burnson seems to be, well, he was over there when he said it, but he moved over here. Okay, he's getting closer to me. Okay. And so those are sort of the concerns that we have. We're not necessarily against it, as I'm not against it per se, but I want it to be meaningful, whatever we do to remove the blight that we're trying to remove. And that's my concern, is that we're going to have good companies come forward, Regency, Aller, say, we want to participate, and then they have to go buy out the smaller guy, Vista Media, who owns all the ones that are the blight, and then they have a breakdown maybe, and then I'm stuck with nothing. And so that's my concern. So if I can get that guarantee that I'll be able to get the ones I want out, then we'll probably be somewhere closer to agreeing. And I'm not, I'm still more in favor of scenario number 2, the square foot, the one recommended by the planning department.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Fuhr.
Yeah, I have a question for the planning department, please. Mr. Eberhardt, where are you when I need you? Here I am. Right, here's my question as you're going to the table. In the planning department report, there's reference made to a section of the city code that requires now that the building and safety department assess whether a sign within 500 feet of a freeway is a potential safety hazard. If we pass this ordinance today, what happens to that requirement?
Council member, the proposal eliminates that code requirement from the city's codes.
Colleagues, I know Mr. Eberhardt is extremely sharp and thoughtful, but doesn't speak in a booming voice. What Mr. Eberhardt just said is that the current requirement of the Building and Safety Code, that building and safety assess whether a sign near a freeway is a hazard for safety or not, is eliminated if we pass what is before us today. I hope we're clear about that. A fundamental requirement of all of us is that we protect the health and safety of our residents. And there is no traffic study required pursuant to this, no traffic safety study. And in fact, existing law that requires that a traffic safety study be performed for signs farther from the freeway than the ones we're talking about here goes away. And we're going to do that today? I can't believe it. To continue, let me also ask another question. You know, there was a discussion about whether 28D achieves the goal that Mr. Wax referred to. And Mr. Ridley Thomas, who is usually right on all things, referred to item 2 in 28D and said that takes care of it. Doesn't take care of it. What takes care of it would be a requirement, and by the way, this would only be a threshold we should cross once we determine that we're not endangering the safety of city residents, by the way. But what takes care of it is a requirement along the lines that Mr. Wax proposed, which is, you want to play, you want to trade? Requirement 1, show us permits that are valid for every billboard you've got in the city. Requirement 2, triple verify that for the billboards you're proposing be traded out. Then we can start to have a conversation, but not before. I think, Joel, that was the spirit of what you were discussing earlier. There's nothing close to that in this. All that exists in 28D is a request to billboard companies that they pretty please provide us with documents suggesting these billboards are permitted. It's not even close to the same thing. It's a pretense that it's the same thing. So it seems to me, I go back to the core of where I was before. Very legitimate concerns. Let's get the sequence right. First, before we abandon an existing code provision to protect the safety of our residents, let's know if their safety is imperiled by this proposal or not. 2, if we cross that threshold, and this is a safe thing to do, the next thing to do is to determine that every billboard that any company wants to play on this has up is in fact a permitted billboard, and I would suggest we supplement that with a requirement that they sign under penalty of perjury that they're not going to put up any unpermitted ones either, and if they do, there are criminal sanctions associated with that. Let's be real about this. We are still playing the billboard company's game. There may be a common goal that a lot of us share, but we aren't getting to that goal, however well-intentioned, by what's before us today.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Hernandez.
Let me just address the issue Mr. Fuhrer just talked about real shortly so we can try and resolve that real quick. You're talking about item 2 that says request the city attorney with the assistance of Building and Safety Department to draft an official correspondence to all billboard companies operating sites in the city of Los Angeles requiring them to produce permits for all their locations within 60 days. So if we make that word direct to city attorney,
I would love to.
No, I'm just asking because I know he's waiting for some results today.
Right.
I was trying to find out if he was optimistic.
Do you wish to be requested or directed?
I'm just
Whatever you wish, we can do
what
it.
his feelings are about today's election. But for the most part, city attorney, we cannot direct you to draft that letter.
Yes. So move, Mr. Hernandez. Direct them, particularly if it's that guy over there.
Yeah, can we?
Yes, you can direct us to draft the letter.
Requiring them to produce the permits.
I think what we can do is we can request them to do it. I'm not sure what sanctions could be imposed if they didn't.
Okay. Now, and if they don't, they cannot participate in the program. Can we state that?
Yes.
I think that you could require that that for any of the signs that you want, as a policy matter, that you could say that for any of the signs that get traded for the signs that are going to go up, that they would show permits for.
No, but if they don't produce this list, we can then say they don't participate in the program.
Now, Joel was saying for all signs that they have up.
I'm just trying to straighten this out right now. Can we do that? I want to amend this to do that. And then,
my proposal, if I may, to be eligible to participate in the program, you have to show that you have valid permits for the signs you now have up and that those signs are in conformance with the conditions of those permits. If you meet that requirement, you can then participate in the trade-off program.
Okay.
And not until, and that's with all your signs,
and I don't
not
have a
just the
problem
ones
with
being
that. Do you have a problem with that with Mr. Thomas? So we'd like to amend this to include that. I just wanted to make sure. The last time before my time runs out?
No, Mr. Hernandez, could you restate your verbal amendment a moment for the clerk?
What Mr. Wax said. To require them to produce a valid permit.
In order to be eligible to participate in the program, you first must show that you have valid permits for all of your boards and that they are in conformance with the conditions of the permit. And that's all the boards, not just the ones being traded, Madam City Attorney, all of them. And then you can participate in the manner set forth in Mr. Ridley Thomas's.
Mr. Hernandez, were you offering that as amendment to 28D?
That's my amendment to 28D. 28D.
Thank you.
And second by Mr. Now, my second point, I just want to make sure, and I need legal counsel to make sure this is included. I want to make sure that billboards that are grandfathered in, again, a good part of my problem is the billboards that were in place prior to us becoming billboard conscious. I mean, I have corridors where billboards are within 500 feet of each other, like on Figueroa Street, but the reality is they've been there a long time. Can that be included in the motion?
I'm not sure what you mean by be included in the motion.
I want to make sure that those can come down. I don't want there to be an excuse that because they were grandfathered in, they don't have valid permits. I just want to make sure they can come down.
Under the city's code, a legal use that existed before, let's say, the code section was changed, is considered to be a legal site.
So, but even though they're grandfathered in, I just want, because the word grandfathered is not mentioned, I want to make sure that I have access to remove some of those billboards. And you're saying I do?
Yes, Councilman.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Holden.
This is double talk, even from the city attorney's office. What you're saying is that it's not retroactive. Whatever ordinance you've adopted subsequent to the time that the sign has been put in place is not retroactive. That is simple. Say it straight so everybody understands it. That's all. but when you say it the way you say it, sometimes it becomes even more confusing. Let me just say that I was going to move the previous question, but Mr. Thomas wants to speak for a third time. Obviously, he has not convinced enough people to take his side. So he needs more time. I will, hey, see, there you are interrupting me. You didn't want to interrupt you, Mr. Burnson. All right. Let me just say that very seldom do I ever come out against Gerald Silver. And I'm really hesitant to do it today. He's always been with me and always been with him. He's a guy I like. He cares about the neighborhood, the community. But let me just say that speaking to 2 points that were raised, his and Mr. Furer's, and Mr. Furer's over there talking to Mr. Koski, so he won't hear this message. I heard it. He said that it would jeopardize the welfare of the public and safety of this. No study. And I would disagree with that because there is a study. There's a study when he voted for the Staples Center sign to be put up, and it's been up there for a couple of years. You voted for that. There's a study of those video signs on the 405 freeway and the Century Freeway. There's a study. And Caltrans has said nothing wrong about those signs having been there. It's a video. Flash, 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 read, read, read. You argue the points you want to argue. Yeah, the study's done every day you drive down the 405. And the study is done every time you drive down Santa Monica Freeway, the 10. And there's no accidents over there at the interchange. So the point I'm trying to make is that no problem. Another thing is that I can understand why Mr. Silver would be here saying, take them down, don't put them up, because they don't have as many concentrated in their neighborhoods as Mike, Pacheco, Holden, Thomas, and Walters. Better get that. I'm glad she's not here. But I would tell you this, that the fact of the matter is that we do have those billboards in the inner city. And they've been grandfathered in, like the city attorney said, because those ordinances were passed subsequent to the fact that those billboards being erected. And they're ugly, they're blighted, and they got to be removed. And the ones they're going to remove is not so much in the other newer communities, new developed communities, but in our community, where we are tired of looking at them. Now, trying to get rid of billboards is trying to get rid of smog. The fact of the matter is that smog, photochemical smog, permeates the whole area. And all we can do is ask for zero-emission automobiles, and we get close to it, but smog is still there. But we can do something about these billboards today. We can say, let's get rid of some of them. And the only ones that can be exchanged for is if we put a few on the freeway. They can be close to the freeway. What difference does it make? But what we want is a fair exchange, and illegal billboards should come down in order to participate in this program. I have no problem with that. If you can stipulate that those billboards are illegal by the Building and Safety and the billboard company, then they should be automatically removed. I mean, why are we closing our eyes and turning our backs?
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
You know what? If I push my button again, I can keep on speaking. You know why? I'm speaking for the second time.
Really? Chair recognizes Councilman Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, I move the previous question on the entire matter.
Anyone else want to speak?
We have Mr. Holden for a second time, Councilwoman Miskowski for a third time, Mr. Fuhr for a third time, Mr. Pacheco for a third time.
Oh, well, I withdraw.
Where's your fortitude, Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Well, it just went out the window, Mr. President, in the interest of compromise and consensus.
Chair recognizes Councilman Holden.
Oh, no. First thing you do when you come to the council, you learn the rules. And the rules say I can speak.
Well, speak, Doc.
That's right. Back to back. Now, these amendments that you're talking about, you can hold my time, explain the amendments, then I can speak to the amendments, and then we can go from there. Thank you, Mr. President. The amendments, I want to know what the amendments are. There's so many of them.
There's 28D that has been distributed, which is actually 28E, which amends what is on the agenda, 28D, the verbal motion.
Now, you know
with
why I wanted
Thomas
it to be
Hernandez.
explained to me?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And in addition to that, there has been a few items that have been accepted amending 28D that has been distributed. One is to include from the substitute motion, Ms. Kowski, 28C, number 6.
Correct.
And also add valid permits must be provided to the city for eligible demolitions unless the city council office specifically approves an eligible demolition for which a valid permit cannot be provided. In addition to that,
And that's Wax and Burnson, yes.
yes. In addition to that, also accepted was Mr. Burnson's recommendation that all new billboards meet standard landscaping requirements prior to be determined by the city. And also Mr. Wax and Mr. Hernandez came up with an amended motion. In order to be eligible, companies must produce valid permits for all its billboards, and then the company is allowed to participate.
I'm nigh on my time. Does that last amendment represent the fact that if a billboard company requests a trade, so many billboards per an opportunity to construct one on the freeway, does it mean that they have to be in total compliance with all the illegal billboards should be removed that they have control over? Does that represent that?
That they should be in compliance with the conditions in which the
I understand, which means that mean all illegal billboards that they have control over shall
That
be
they
removed
own, yeah.
in order to participate in this program. I mean, you got to put that on the record.
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Okay. All right. Now, we don't need to ask the billboard company about that, do we? No. All right.
The
So
ones that are good won't have a problem.
they don't want to do anything illegally anyway, do they?
No, I hope not.
That's right. And the fact of the matter is that now for every billboard they put up in favor of someone, they have to put a disclaimer on it, right? Thank you very much.
That's a different issue.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Miskowski.
Just to respond to Mr. Holden, who said that we wouldn't eliminate the hazard, on page 8, it looks like, of the Planning Department report, which was written on this, it says, the first thing Building and Safety will have to do, if we amend this to allow them on the freeway, is to eliminate the hazard determination by Building and Safety and DOT. That is the first recommendation of our, and they're shaking their head yes. So that goes out the window. We will no longer have that hazard determination by allowing this. Members of the council, I think this has been a healthy discussion, and I think there is some degree of consensus. But I think it probably is worthwhile to continue this for 2 weeks just to make sure, rather than have all these verbal amendments and understandings, because Mr. Burnson said that the way this worked, 28D, is all of these items had to be in compliance first before a permit was issued. That's not what Mr. Ridley Thomas, who was the author, said. Mr. Wax's amendment, I think, clarifies that, at least relative to anybody who wants to participate in this. And I think it would be worthwhile, and I don't know if we could ask the staff to coalesce and present this in a way that is comprehensive, and we understand it, because I think my substitute motion said, let's do all these things with clarity first. Let's know it's illegal, let's put a fee out there, let's look at permits, let's give Building and Safety the teeth. Then we can look at a trade-off. My personal view is that the trade-off should be for takedown on-site, on city streets today, not the freeway, and I still think there's some benefit, because I'm getting billboard industry people who are looking for an exemption from the existing ICO, who want to put billboards back on our city streets and are willing to take them down on our city streets. So I think we can, once we know what is real, can work with them under our existing ordinances anyway and not give them that freeway exposure. But I do think that it's worth continuing this for 2 weeks to help put that together and see whether or not there's consensus, which puts literally the requirement, the legality, the permitted, all of those indications in place first before we look for a trade-off.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes Councilman Padilla.
Question, Mr. President.
I have one more motion.
Mr. Padilla moves a previous question.
I have one more motion.
Was that a point of order?
I have one more motion to
Once I get a
offer.
point of order, is one more motion.
May I offer one
Was that
more
a
motion?
point of information?
It's a motion.
Chair will rule it in order.
Okay, thank you. No, I would like to add to the kitty the requirement that there be a traffic study before this idea moves forward in 2 weeks or thereafter.
Motion for the previous question is now before us. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on the previous question and tabulate the vote?
10 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, that passes. Okay, here we go.
Wait, we had a two-week continuance.
The first item to vote on would be the motion to continue.
Okay, there's a motion to continue for 2 weeks, Councilwoman?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on the continuance? 2 weeks, and tabulate the vote.
5 ayes, 6 noes.
That fails. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Working backwards, you have 28D, which has been distributed, which amends 28D on the verbal motion by Thomas Hernandez, along with all of the accepted motions, which include 28C from the number 6 from Mrs. Miskowski's substitute motion. The valid permits must be provided to the city. The Burnson request that all new billboards meet standard landscaping requirements. The Wax Hernandez motion that all eligible companies must produce valid permits for all its billboards and show that it's in conformance and before they're allowed, with the conditions before they're allowed to participate in the program. And also calls for Mr. Fuhr's traffic study.
Colleagues, as a procedural matter, we will vote on all of these amendments, E and D first, and then we will consider 28C, which is the substitute motion, Miskowski-Fuhr. And then we will go back to the main motion, which is 28D and E. Okay? So right now, all the amendments, 28D, written and verbal, and E are before us.
With respect to the traffic study, that was an amendment that I accepted. So we can separate that one out.
Okay, then
I am. I'm absolutely generous.
Then what we will do, we will vote on that first.
All right.
Because we called it to separate the question. So the traffic study is before us. Okay, that item is before us. Mr. Clerk, open the roll and tabulate the vote.
6 ayes, 5 noes.
That fails. You need 8 votes. Now we have 28E, D, all of those amendments before us. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on those items?
Urgent aye vote.
And tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 2 noes.
Those items pass. Now we have the substitute motion, 28C, Miskowski-Fuhr, before us.
Urgent no vote.
Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on the substitute motion, 28C, and tabulate the vote?
4 ayes, 7 noes.
The substitute fails. Now we have item 28 before us, as amended by D and all its components and E and all of its components. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll?
Urgent aye vote.
And tabulate the vote.
8 ayes, 3 noes.
That passes. Next.
Point of information, Mr. President.
Mr. Burnson?
I just want to make this point. I didn't want to bring it up to confuse the issue before, but I intend to bring in a motion very shortly that will also provide for a amortization of some of the existing signs in the city in relation to any new signs in the city with a ratio to remove some of those signs that way.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Now it's time for public comment and on-agenda item.
We do not have any forthwith on the last item.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holden?
Item 8, we continued it, and I'd like to bring it back to the table for the purpose of an amendment and moving forward.
Okay, so you would like to reconsider item number 8 at this time?
Reconsider the action that we took to continue and
Okay, is there any objection to reconsidering item number 8?
No, you don't want it? All right, then leave it as is.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion to reconsider, Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any cards for public comment? No? Is there any person in the audience that wants to speak under public comment regarding subject matter jurisdiction of the council? Mr. Ridley Thomas?
On 17, please.
Forthwith on 17 for Mr. Ridley Thomas. Seeing no cards for public comment is closed. Mr. Burnson?
Yes, I have a closing, adjourning motion.
In a moment. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
Without objection, so ordered.
Councilmember request from attending council. Councilmember Galanter request to be excused today, June 5th. Motion is required.
Move it.
Sure. Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Mr. President, would you permit me the courtesy of introducing a special guest in our council chamber today? Professor Cornel West from Harvard is visiting our city, and I'd like for us to give him a warm welcome and to recognize his presence. Professor West.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. Mr. Clerk?
The desk is clear.
Adjourning motions?
Visiting from Harvard?
Yes.
Chair recognizes Councilman Burnson.
Well, first, before my adjourning motion, I'd like to note that the Planning and Land Use Planning Committee will meet in 10 minutes. I'd ask the council to adjourn in memory of Imogene Coca, one of the outstanding comedians that I can ever recall, who passed away just, I think, a couple days ago. Some of you may not remember her, but the original TV series with people like Sid Caesar were some of the classics, and they were done in front of live audiences. They weren't taped, and they were really something for any of you that may remember them. She was quite talented. She passed away at the age, I guess it was 92.
Adjourning motions?
Yeah,
Mr. Hernandez?
Mr. Chair, I think on behalf of myself, and I'm sure Mr. Padilla and Mr. Pacheco have a few words, but hopefully the entire council, I would ask us to adjourn in memory of Anthony Quinn.
Oh, yeah, of course, all members.
And, I just remember as a small child watching Anthony Quinn's performances, and as an adult watching his performances, and they were always moving. And this is before I knew he was basically grew up in East LA and that he was of Mexican and Irish descent. And he stood out as an icon in my mind as an actor. He was that kind of person. But I think he represented a little bit of all of us, and his passion in the movies was something that will always stay with me. And so I just ask that we all adjourn.
Mr. President, I just want to add something to that. I grew up in Boyle Heights in East LA also. But what I remember more about Anthony Quinn than all the great movies he made was the time that he came to Soda, Michigan Community Center and spoke to the kids there and told them how important it was for them to make a future for themselves, to get their education and not to drop out of school and get involved with gangs and things like that. So he was not only a great actor, but he was a real member of our community, and he will be sorely missed.
Adjourning motions?
And you were the kid.
Mr. Pacheco?
Kept me in school.
I just wanted to add that one of the most famous stories about Anthony Quinn was that when he first came to this country, his family as an immigrant, another family helped him out, helped his mother out. And many years later, the family that was assisting them got into some legal battles with the Sleepy Lagoon case, where the kids were accused. Obviously, everyone knows about the whole Zoot Suit riots. And he actually participated with Orson Welles and some other individuals in the legal defense fund for those young Mexicans at the time, and really based on all of those relationships and the assistance that his family received when he got here from that family as a member of the East Side community.
I had forgotten about the Sleepy Lagoon thing.
Adjourning motions, Councilman Wax.
Yes. First, I'd like to adjourn in memory of my fraternity brother and a prominent business person for a long time, Steve Platt, and I'll give the clerk the information. One of the really great ladies of arts and letters in our city passed yesterday, Regina Fadiman, and I'll give the clerk the pertinent information on that. She leaves her son, Steve Lesser. And Anthony Quinn, he makes an incredible case for non-traditional casting. Sometimes we think that only people can play roles if they're from the group themselves. I mean, I always thought he was Greek. You know, he played that, and I think we have to learn from that great actors are capable of doing great things, and that's part of their career, and that we ought to encourage more non-traditional casting as well when it's done in the kind of manner and integrity that that role was performed.
Are there any other adjourning motions?
I just wanted to make sure that our viewers knew Channel 36 citywide, and in the Valley, Channel 6 will be running live coverage of election results from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. And phone number 818-773-0658 is the Time Warner Channel 6. They're taking calls, questions, people who want to participate for the public.
Announcement?
Mr. Vornich,
Mr. Holder?
just to announce that IGR will meet at 1:30 instead of at 1. And two other things. One, to congratulate you. You were the president today of the council. You did an excellent job, and you're retiring, but we don't want to let you go. And to reiterate what Mr. Wax said about, you know, you don't have to be from one ethnic group in order to be a great actor. Or, you know, you can be elected to the city council and act very well for 30 years, and then you'll leave.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment.
Is there any other words of wisdom prior to our adjourning?
Yeah, I just want to know when the Plum Committee will be meeting. 10 minutes?
Seeing no further business.
I move adjournment.
Yeah, seeing no further business before this council stands adjourned.
I'll go down.